Everybody, quick apology in advance about the audio on this video. We recorded this earlier today, and with my mistake in configuring the audio, it recorded my guest's audio separately, but also included it in with my mic track. So there is a delay and an echo in there, and I've done some work to clean it up a little bit, but it's still pretty prevalent. But I don't want to waste Jack's time re-recording this. You can still make it out. I'm going to make sure that the captions and subtitles and stuff are accurate on this before I publish it. If need be, you can use those. You can make out what we're saying. It's not horrible, but it's definitely not ideal, and it's completely my mistake, my unfamiliarity with this software that we used this morning. I promise I'll learn from it, and I will not let it happen again. So anyway, there's really good content in here, and that's why I didn't want to just scrap it or even have to make him do it over again. It's there. It's audible. You can hear it. It's a little bit annoying, but I'm going to use chapters, subtitles, and the whole works to hopefully help you get what you need out of it. Thanks, everyone. Hey, everybody. How's it going? I am back again to talk about the unfolded circle remote control a little bit more. Again, I've been spending a lot of time on this topic lately, but there's a lot of people with a lot of questions, and a lot of those questions come from the different integrations that are available for the remote. And one of the integrations that makes the remote so powerful, especially in these early days, is the Home Assistant integration. And it ships with an integration on the remote control itself that allows the remote to control Home Assistant entities. But there is also an integration that will allow Home Assistant to see and control the remote. And I've talked about this a little bit, and I've maybe not quite gotten everything completely explained. So today I've decided that I would just bring on Jack Powell, who is the creator of that unfolded circle integration that you install into Home Assistant. And Jack, welcome.
Hi, Travis. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So Jack should be able to answer these questions much more effectively than I can. We were just discussing that I'm not a developer in any sense of the word. I know just enough to annoy actual developers because I kind of know what's possible and I kind of know what I should be seeing, and then I just send them and run with it. So Jack is here to answer a few of the other questions and maybe some of the more frequently asked questions that he gets about the integration and how it can be used and how it can be effective. So, Jack, where should we start?
Well, we can jump in and talk about some of the features inside of the Home Assistant integration. That sounds good.
That sounds great. I've got my Home Assistant pulled up here, and you can see that I've got the integration installed here. One of the things that actually popped up from my last video was that I wasn't exactly sure what these entities were or where they were coming from, and you left a comment on that video that it was like one of those duh moments. These are entities that the remote is exposing in Home Assistant, and I had some people ask why do we care about having this stuff? Like, what are these basic overview of what these controls are, and why do we need these in Home Assistant?
Sure. So the top section is the most easily explained. Inside that controls area, you will have all of your activities and activity groups. If you expand that select, you'll see several activities that are defined on the remote. And if you select one of those, it will trigger that activity on the remote.
And so these are the same. These are the activities that I have built on my remote. So that's where these are coming from.
Exactly. And the simple use case for this is when you're in another room, maybe you're downstairs and you want to trigger, you're about to watch a movie in the theater room. You can start an activity from your phone, get something to drink, and by the time you get to the theater room, everything's warmed up, projector's on, everything's turned on, and you're ready to just pick something to play. So that section, pretty straightforward. Right below that, there's a set of sensors that just report information about the remote, the battery charge level, the status, the binary sensor that indicates the status if the remote is charging or not.
You can see where I was using it last night watching a movie. You can see that, it wasn't charging there. That's when I was watching last night. So one thing to point out about these, like I found when a lot of people have reported charging issues with the Remote 3 and the dock. And what this does is it can show when those issues are popping up. If you see, last night at 3:15 a.m., all of a sudden the remote dropped to 0 when you were sleeping, and then it slowly started charging back up. Or you can use this to cross-reference the logs from the remote and try and find what was really causing that problem. This is a nice indicator of when to exactly start digging through those logs, because sometimes the logs can have a lot of entries. And so if okay, I need to look at last night from 3 to 5 a.m., it helps you narrow it down and really find the root of the problem. So sometimes it's fun just to look and check how fast your battery is dying or how fast or slow it's recharging, but there's definitely a good troubleshooting value there as well.
Definitely. And you can also create automations off of those sensors. So it might be a bit contrived, but at a certain battery level, you might want to perform some action, and you can create a trigger off of that. Oftentimes, you're going to be creating triggers off of the start of an activity, but more data is never a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
And then below that, we've got a set of configuration controls, and these are exposing the same sensors that you can change on the remote. So this is basically replicating the settings screen in Home Assistant. So you have all these options available to you, and you can adjust things, and maybe you would want to adjust these dynamically per activity. So you create an automation that when an activity starts, you might want to change the screen timeout, or always keep the screen off because you never want it to come on. So now you have direct control over these settings, and when you stop that activity, you can revert back to the normal value that you would like.
And I'm just thinking, just from what we basically talked about, could someone say, hey, when the battery hits 35%, decrease the display? Could you create those types of automations to decrease the display
100%.
To 5, from 90 to 5 to conserve that battery during that time and things like that?
Yeah.
Very cool.
That's exactly. And I don't know if this is still the case. They may have adjusted this in the in the web configurator, but for a while you're able to adjust the sleep timeout. I think it's just the sleep timeout higher than what is available in the web configurator. So we can take a look and see. And does it go up to 30 minutes now, or is it still 5 minutes?
30 minutes.
Okay. For a certain period of time, they had it capped at 5 minutes in the web configurator, and the API allowed you to set it to 30. So anyway, that's not a big feature anymore.
Sure, but it's and if you're sitting here trying to figure out how to make your battery last longer, it saves you from having to go over to a different interface. So
that's right.
I don't hear sound effects anymore. Do you? Does the Remote 3 have sound effects? I don't seem to notice them.
That's a good question. I'm not even sure I have mine turned on.
I'd set it in the dock, and I'd wait to hear that little bleep, so I knew it was charging. And now I just watch the indicator on the dock and see, yep, it's in there, good. And I don't ever notice the sound when I do that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm still running my R2 as my primary remote, so I should play around with the R3 more, and I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, right? Like,
that's right.
I before they started shipping, or even today, some people are so anxious, and I'm like, my first thought is, what? It's a remote. Let's just chill out. But then I think back, I'm like, I've been using the remote 2. I used the remote 2 until the day I switched to the remote 3. So I guess I'm looking at it from that different, the remote 2 is also a fantastic piece of hardware and does a really nice job. So you don't necessarily need to switch over quickly.
Yeah. There's still advantages to the remote 2.
Much better screen.
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not complaining about the new screen, because again, I'm watching my movies on this screen, not on the remote. Sure. But just the black levels on that other screen were so nice, and the transparent background of the icons. You can still kind of see that square 90 by 90 on this screen. Okay. But I'm using that for 90 seconds to click through the menu that's on my big screen and hit play. I'm not really looking at the display all that much. So.
And it's much more pronounced when you're comparing the two side by side. If you just have the R3, it still looks great.
It's still a much better screen than the Harmony or the Sofa Baton.
Oh, no kidding.
So tell me back to the integration. Talk about this diagnostic stuff. What are some of these, and why should we care about them?
Yeah. So I see that you have a couple of ones that are enabled that aren't there by default. In a new installation, there'll be a button just below all of these diagnostic sensors that show like 4 hidden sensors or something like that. You can enable them in Home Assistant. These sensors are not exposed on the WebSocket API. So the only way to get this data is to poll the remote. And so this polling occurs every 30 seconds. And one of those sensors is there to indicate to you that is occurring. You'll see that polling sensor status is on. But with it on, you can pull information like the CPU load averages, the memory usage. There's also, I think, file system space, but that is probably pretty constant for most people. There's tons of space on the remote for what's actually getting run there, right? And
what is this? What is remote entities?
This should be, though I think there may be a bit of a bug in the system. If you look at the extra attributes in the remote entities, let's see if there's any there. If you open it up, and then click on attributes at the bottom.
Oh. Remote entities, attributes.
Yeah. So this would be listing all of the entities that you are sharing with the remote. But looks like there's a bit of a bug that I need to fix. So that's what would be there.
So, okay, so that's everything that's in Home Assistant that you are sharing with the remote. So in other words, when we're on this screen and we go to this, basically it would indicate which of these you've selected.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that flow a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can, let me take a step back and kind of go over a little bit about what you talked about earlier. There's 2 Home Assistant integrations that we're dealing with. One runs on the remote, and one is running inside of Home Assistant. And a lot of times a new user will set up that integration on the remote, just like all the other integrations. And that works fine. But there are some limitations on the Home Assistant side that cause that to be suboptimal, especially for people with a lot of entities inside their Home Assistant instance. Without the integration inside Home Assistant, the one that we've been demoing so far, when you go to add an entity into your remote, you're going to get the fire hose of entities in Home Assistant. And there is a cap to that as well. So if you have more entities in that cap, you can't even add them all. And you're also having to deal with selecting from 5,000 entities one at a time. That's slow to add. It's not a great experience. So a lot of times people will set that up, get some things going, and then realize, oh, there's this other side to the integration. So they install the integration inside Home Assistant, and now they can't add more entities from the remote. Right? They're looking to, they're trying to follow the same steps that they did before, but they don't see them. And that's what you were demoing just a second ago. So if that is the case, once you install this integration, you click on the configure menu, the cog in the device, the unpulsed device screen, and you're presented with a menu with two options: configure entities to share, and then configuring this integration. So you'll go to configuring entities to share with the remote, and this is where you'll define all of your entities that you want Home Assistant to share with the remote. And the things you might pick here are lights in your room that you want to be able to control from the remote, or maybe you have some curtains that you want to close when you start an activity. You can share those with the remote and then control those in an activity sequence.
Very good. Yeah, and this is where several of my devices, when I started using the remote too, several of them didn't have an integration, but we were able to get various control in Home Assistant. And so I was like, all these that are K cancel, K down, these are Kaleidoscape remote control things that I was creating a script for every button press to expose that script to the remote too, so that I could control the Kaleidoscape. And then, we've since obviously gotten a Kaleidoscape unfolded circle integration that brings those all in within the media player. So, but yeah, I've got, like you said, can be a fire hose. I don't even have that large of a Home Assistant integration. It's still primarily in this room, a few things throughout the house. And I've got 300 plus entities that would all be, in this sort of a list if I didn't have this plug-in to filter it down and really be more choosy. So it does definitely help with the making things, a little more manageable when you're programming the remote, especially out of the gate. And if you add a new device that needs to come in through Home Assistant, you can always just go back to this and click this and add the entities for that specific device that you need. And now you can, use your search function to get right to that section and start hand picking what you want to put onto the remote. And, I think that's actually very, very handy. What is configure this integration? Is this something that beyond the initial setup, does anyone need this? Is there a reason for?
Yeah. So there are 4 screens that we can walk through. So some of them have to do with making some customizations to the integration, just some opinionated things that you might like to see differently. And then at the end of the setup flow, there's some options to reconnect the remote if you need to do that for some reason. So on this first screen,
So configure this.
you have
This one?
Go ahead. Sorry. Yes.
This is
Yes.
where you want me? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's all right.
So on this first screen, to configure activities, there's two different options. One is that you create all activities as switch entities. So by default, activity groups are created as a select. It's a drop-down list with all of the activities in it. We saw that earlier.
Yep.
But sometimes it is more convenient, especially for automations, if all of the activities are just treated as a singular switch inside of Home Assistant. And it makes it real easy to trigger on the change of the switch or just to toggle the switch if you wanted to start a particular activity from either from a screen or from an automation.
When the dishwasher starts, toggle, watch movie in theater. Something like that.
Correct. And that second one will suppress the creation of the activity groups themselves. So if you want to, if you only check that first box, you'll have both. You'll have your activity groups and a duplicate switch. That will just prevent the creation of the activity groups.
Okay.
We can go to the next screen. This controls how media players are handled. By default, there is a singular global media player that attempts to make a best choice for what you're actively doing and expose that to Home Assistant. It also allows you to control whatever media I guess the media device that's actively playing. So if you have a running activity and you have a set of controls defined for your button presses on the remote, the button presses, the controls that Home Assistant allows for, you can virtually press inside of Home Assistant on that media player. And you can also change the source, do some things. Home Assistant has less capability than the remote itself, but anything that Home Assistant supports, you can perform those actions inside of Home Assistant. And this setting is changing how media players are created. But beneath that, you can have the option to create additional media players, one for every activity group, and then also one for each activity that you have defined. So if you want a whole bunch of additional media players, you can check those boxes and you'll have independent media players for everything that you have configured on the remote.
So hypothetically speaking, create additional media player entities for each activity group. Let's say you're a parent and you have a theater in the basement and your teen has a TV in their bedroom and there's a TV in the living room and maybe there's a slumber party happening in the theater, a teen, another kid up in their bedroom. You can actually I have mine configured for the global media player entity because I'm only using it for one room. But if each activity group as a room, the theater is an activity group, the bedroom is an activity group, the living room is an activity group, you can still you would have 3 of these media players here, and you could just quick pull up your dashboard and see what's being watched in the bedroom or in the theater without having to go let them know that you're spying on them. So and is that
exactly?
That's a pretty fair assumption and a good use case, quite frankly, in as a parent. Just to make sure that nothing weird's happening. Yeah, I know. I was a kid once. So yeah, let's just make sure things are appropriate materials are being watched. So,
Exactly.
and then for each activity,
Okay.
yeah, if you wanted to
Yeah.
really get into the weeds, but activity group to me seems like a really useful option for for monitoring what's going on in the house, or even seeing if a TV is on after bedtime.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be snooping on content or any sort of thing, but hey, you're supposed to be asleep, your TV's on.
Okay. This next screen, pretty self-explanatory, but it allows you to configure the IP address or the host name of the remote itself. So this is how Home Assistant needs to communicate with the remote. So if there's a change to this address internally, you can come here and adjust it to repoint to the remote without resetting up the integration.
Now, is there a difference between using the actual IP address here versus using the local address that's being assigned to the remote? Like, could I copy this remote 3 address into here and get the same results, different results? Is there a preferred method?
There shouldn't be a difference. Both are going to work equally as well.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah. Technically, because the other one's a bit more dynamic, it should be updating itself if the IP changes. So there's some advantage to doing that.
Okay.
And yeah.
I have then all locked on a static IP, so it shouldn't change. But it's good to know that this might be more flexible for those who aren't monitoring their network closely and locking things down to keep those.
And this last screen is something that comes up fairly frequently. Sometimes the remote itself will lose the connection to Home Assistant. Sometimes this does happen. We're investigating an issue right now where the WebSocket connection is being dropped and not being reestablished automatically. It should be, but sometimes when you'll open up the web configurator, you'll go to your integrations page, and Home Assistant may be unavailable. This seems to occur most often after you first install the HAX integration. So if you configure your remote in the web configurator, then you install this integration, sometimes there's a disconnect. And what you can do is go through this flow, and you can adjust the IP address or the host name of Home Assistant itself. So it's asking for what is this instance Home Assistant's WebSocket address. And it'll fill in the default for you. It grabs this from the network tab inside of Home Assistant. So it should have a reasonable default. But you can adjust this if needed, and that will do quite a bit behind the scenes to reestablish the connection with the remote. It shares a long-lived access token with the remote so that it is able to re-authenticate to Home Assistant. A couple of other technical things, just getting that connection reestablished.
Excellent. Okay. Very cool. And obviously I don't have my Remote 2 here right now, but if I had more devices, they can be renamed, and when the Remote 2 was still here, it would just show up. You can add multiple devices here, and they would all show up as their own line. I know this has been asked recently, and I know the answer, but can you, if you have 5 Remote 3s in your house, can they sync state between the 5? Is that something they might be able to help with in the future?
I think definitely in the future there's going to be more ability to, hopefully there's going to be more ability to sync that state. Now, some things are achievable today if you wanted to start the same activity on all of your remotes. You can have Home Assistant do that when it detects some remote starting activity. I better start it on all the rest, right? So things like that can happen today, but there are certain pieces of the remote state that are not settable, and until that's implemented on the remote side, you can't get 100% there, but you can get pretty close.
Cool. We could have remote groups like we have activity groups.
Exactly.
Very cool. Let's see. What else should people know about this other than install it? Even if you're not going to directly use it, you'll eventually find a reason that it's good to have it. Let's see. I'm trying to think what we haven't gone through, so you tell me.
The simplest way to get started with the integration is to have HACS installed. That's the Home Assistant Community Store. So if you have this installed, this integration is part of the default HACS list. So if you just go up to the search bar and search for Unfold Circle, it will show up. And then you'll be able to click it and install the integration. Once installed, when you reboot the remote, when Home Assistant when you reboot Home Assistant, once it starts back up, the remote should be automatically discovered inside of Home Assistant, and you can click that discovery to start that flow and add it to Home Assistant. It's real easy to get started if you have HACS installed. That's definitely the preferred way.
Yeah, that and that's the preferred way for a lot of things. If you're new to Home Assistant, just because you got this remote, that should be one of the first things you do, because there's a lot of really great things in this. I mean, like you said, it's the community store. This is where people like Jack are posting different integrations that you can just quickly run and add to your Home Assistant. This is your Volvo and your Polestar. All these can just be loaded into Home Assistant, and then from there loaded onto your Remote 3. So
exactly. Yeah.
Let's see. I've got that. I've not done. I don't have a password on my dock, so this is just here. But that's not like an error. Nobody's doing anything wrong. I just don't have a password set for the dock.
I am adjusting the way that dock setup works in a future release. So the dock itself is going to become a sub-entity inside of Home Assistant, so that it isn't configured automatically, and it becomes an option for you to add later if you like. You can add multiple if you have multiple docks, just like multiple remotes. And the issue where the dock doesn't have a password defined will be is corrected. So it should be using the default password there. And I think if you type in 0000, it will add it. I think I should be doing this live.
We're recording. I'll edit this out if it doesn't work.
I didn't give you a good edit break.
Maybe not.
Well, maybe not.
That's all right. It doesn't bother me seeing this here. Obviously, I've still got updates to run on Home Assistant. I generally try to run them at the end of the month, right before they bring the next one in, because I figure it's generally the most stable at that point. So maybe this week I'll run the July updates. But yeah, I mean, that actually also reminds me, I have a second dock that I haven't even plugged in yet. I should test it and make sure it works. I ended up getting a second. I got the free dock and already had added a second one as a just in case. I got one that doesn't match the color of the remote because I wanted to see both finishes, and it will probably end up as a backup somewhere in a drawer. So, but yeah, I'm trying to think how, here's that. And you're making a good case for maybe I should switch that to activities as a toggle, and then just put a row of 3 buttons across the top here instead of that drop down. Would that, if I were to change that after the fact, is it going to break anything anywhere?
Nope. It will work.
Or will this still work?
As long as you leave that setting unchecked to suppress the activity group, you'll still have the activity group, and you can use it the same way you're using it today. You'll just get additional switches that you can toggle, that you can place on a dashboard or triggering automations.
This. And now, if I edit this dashboard, I will add a card that will be, I have to remember how to do these. Do I have to add columns like WordPress, or I just add?
Well, it depends on what dashboard type you're using to it. Might adjust. The answer might be different.
Like what did I add for this one? This is a grid card. That's what I want. Grid. And since I have 3, okay. Visibility, columns 3, since I have 3 activities. No. Oh, button. And this would be watch. I saw it pop up there. Weird. Okay, watch Kaleidoscape. And then the second one will be, this is good television here, or good watching me create these. Then add the third one, and it's a button, and this is watch. That's weird that when I add the C, they go away. Okay, and now icon. Yeah, I'll just leave them with that for now. Then we'll save it. Uh-oh, I just launched one. This is my default on my phone, and it's just those basic. This is what I want to fire up the theater before I come downstairs. So I apparently accidentally triggered the watch Kaleidoscape, but you can see it worked.
Yeah, we got a good working demo. Starting something from Home Assistant.
Yeah, and that's, like we've talked about. That was the main reason I installed this integration in the first place, was to be able to. It was the way to fire up the theater from upstairs. That was the one thing that I was missing from the Harmony, because the Harmony was app based and this was not. You couldn't even bring up the configurator on a phone at that point. So this was very helpful, and it's also been very helpful in many other ways. So I'm going to save that. So there we go. Excellent. And now if I do this, things power off.
Pretty cool.
Excellent. All right. Well, that has been really, really helpful, Jack. And I thank you, first of all, for coming on today and kind of walking us through the finer points of this. I've glossed over it, but it's definitely good to get a little more detail and even just context about the what these things do and the why. Opened up the idea of, I could use the battery status to dim the display if that was an issue for me, and just kind of thinking about those things. It's really cool. This is a powerful remote, and it's made more powerful Thanks to your work. We talked a lot about the Home Assistant integration today, but you've done a lot of other integrations as well. You created the integration that's controlling my JVC projector, and what other integrations have you done? You got a laundry list?
It's a growing list. I've also built an integration for Samsung TVs. Technically, anything that works with the Tizen API. So there are some sound bars that it can also control. That was just a nice side effect. There's the PlayStation Network integration that will pull in your actively playing game, the artwork and the title is displayed on your remote. It's just cool. There's no practical purpose to that one, but it is just kind of neat being able to see the game that you're playing on your remote control.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, that was my exact thought. The Plex integration, a lot of times, the existing media players do not share all of the information about their currently playing media. This is particularly true on the Android side of things. The Apple TV does a great job at this, but for whatever reason, on Android, it oftentimes this information is not shared, like the media title or the artwork or even the playback position, which is actually very useful. So if you are a Plex user, you can install this integration and it will show you your the artwork, the title, progress for your media, and there's some options there for configuring what artwork that you'd like to see. And I think there's the Yamaha made it on the list now too. So for Yamaha AVRs that work with the current API specification, this is the Yamaha Extended Control API. You can control your Yamaha receivers over IP as well. So I think those are. I think that's the list. But I'm always looking for new ones.
I wish they put dates on these, like when these were added to the list. I'd be curious to see how much this list has grown since the Remote 3 started landing on doorsteps. Because it feels to me like this is just really starting to take off and is really gaining some traction. The more people have the devices, the more integrations we're getting, which is exciting because that's what really makes it fun. But yeah, excellent. Very cool. And back to the Plex thing, I'm an Apple TV guy, and so I would have never known really that the Plex wasn't sending artwork because it works just fine through the Apple TV media integration. And in effect, it works better than the Apple TV app, which sends horizontally formatted artwork now. But I've noticed in the preview of the new tvOS, they're switching all of their show TV and movie artwork to portrait format, so it'll be better formatted for the screen. Hopefully that's what they send for Apple TV stuff going forward, because that's always been a bit of an annoyance. That why would they send it like that? It's not shaped like a movie poster. And just to point out, this is the official Unfolded Circle website. They have this supported devices tab, and this is where the community integrations and the official integrations are also. They make it here once they've been submitted. There's the Discord channel where a lot of the developers. That's where I met Jack. The developers are there helping people out a lot. And there's a custom community projects tab. Is that what it's called on Discord? Mm-hmm. Community projects has a lot, even more custom integrations than are listed here, I think. So, just do some investigating and find some custom integrations, or find a developer who's willing to work with you and create one. So Excellent. Well, again, Jack, I thank you for joining us, and let us know when there's a big update with anything, and we'll have you on again to talk about it and tell people how to use it.
Okay. Thank you, Travis. It's been a lot of fun.
You bet. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we will talk to you real soon.